Welcome to Women We Should Know with international speaker, mindset reset mentor, author, and your host, Lesley Michaels. With audacious honesty and candor, the Women We Should Know podcast presents the wisdom and life-empowering insights of women who are the embodiments of innovation and social evolution. Please join Lesley as she shares potent conversations that will inspire your personal and professional evolutions. Welcome to Women We Should Know.
Welcome back to Women We Should Know, the podcast where we consistently bring you the voices, the stories, the courageous audacity, the unwavering resilience, and the inspiring innovation of women who are carving new paths, challenging the status quo, and breaking through old paradigms. The most beautiful thing about every one of these women is, as they do this, they always leave a light on, so that we know where to follow if that is somewhere that feels that it is beckoning to us. Today, I have the most amazing woman, known as Dr. Dorothy. Dr. Dorothy Martin-Neville has risen from an orphanage and growing up in the housing projects of South Boston to founding 5 companies as an author, speaker, leadership coach, and valuable confidant. She is said to hold your heart while she kicks your ass. Don't we all need a woman like that in our lives, don't we? In calling her clients to their highest and best selves, creating success, freedom, and the ability to dream bigger than they ever imagined. It is my esteemed honor to be able to introduce you to Dr. Dorothy. And Dr. Dorothy, welcome to Women We Should Know.
Thank you so much. It's such an honor to be here with you.
Thank you. It is just a delight. I've been excited about this all morning. I have a little tradition. I love to ask my guests, what has already inspired you today?
Well, actually, what happened is earlier this morning, I had a Zoom meeting with a friend's child who is a sophomore in college and wanting to go into the field of psychology. And she is doing so because she was a close confidant of a cousin who has developed drug addiction. She wants to work with family drug addicts. And what an inspiration to work with somebody so young who is so clear on her purpose, on what she wants to do, the work she wants to achieve. And just the questions were all about, how do I get there? What do I do? What is your advice? And the fact that she was wide open to talking to somebody who's got decades more experience and willing to learn, willing to grow, and willing to take off, and she'll be our future. And what a gift to prepare those who will be the future after we're gone, you know?
Well, how beautiful that she was able to listen. It is so important and sometimes so challenging to listen to those who have gone before us and have more wisdom. And that's a beautiful thing. What a great way to start the day. Now, in your introduction, I spoke about the fact that you grew up as a Southie and that you grew up in an orphanage. And when you got to adulthood, before you built your 5 companies, you had a little problem getting into college. And as many women before you have been told by the mothers that they had, that's all right, just get married and have kids. What I love about that story is you were already aware of, as you put it, there was too much of you to settle for that.
Yeah, when I graduated from high school, I wanted getting married was fine, but I wanted more in addition to being married. And marriage just seemed logical because coming from the projects, you make it to high school and you're considered educated. And so the next graduate in May, you get married in June. That was okay, as long as I could have so much more, as long as I could have a career or something. Being a mom, but making an impact was important to me. And it wasn't possible. It wasn't possible at that time. My dad wanted me to have 20 children, to stay home and have 20 children. And there would be no time for me to do anything but be a mom if I was going to stay home and have 20 with the man I was supposed to marry. So it really became a choice, is what is more important to me at that point in my life. That call to get out of projects, to get out of South Boston and become who I needed to be.
Well, that is fascinating that you knew that at that time. And even more fascinating that you had the tenacity and the temerity to go for it. Because I think there have been a lot of young women who knew they were born to bigger things, but settled on what was offered to them. So congratulations to you, because you've been such a benefit to how many thousands and thousands of people. And I know one of your big topics that we spoke of before is the way you address the fact that women are currently being called to leadership.
Right.
And could you speak to that?
I believe there's a number of factors involved in that. One, there's a recognition on some circles, if you will, unfortunately not all, but on an increasing number of circles, that having women in the C-suite, if not as CEO or COO, having women in those positions brings a balanced leadership, a variety, a diversity of perspectives, so that if companies, now we're so global, if companies are going to be global, they're going to be more impactful with greater influence. We need diversity of voices, leading that with a diversity of perspectives and change. And most importantly, I think the culture, creating a culture for that company that supports creative thought, and women bring that to the table.
Women do bring that to the table. All the studies show that women bring more innovative ways to apply innovation, which is fascinating to me. You've said that if you're going to be a leader, you must stay ahead of your vision, or your vision will run over you instead of being led by you. Can you talk to us about that and what that means and what that invitation is to women?
I certainly, and that awareness, that wisdom, if you will, developed for me when I had a dream of opening up a small little school. And it was just going to be this little side thing that I did on an occasional weekend. And what ended up happening is that school, which was going to be just a few months, ended up becoming a 4-year program affiliated or commissioned by the Department of Higher Education in the state of Connecticut, affiliated with hospitals across the country and in Australia, where my students did medical internships. That company grew so fast. I was still blown away by the fact that this was supposed to be a small little thing. And now I've got all these employees. I've got medical, dental, 401k match. I've got 1099s, dozens of 1099 positions on my staff, and needing to catch up to become the woman who could sustain that, to become the woman who could manage all of that, and then lead where it needed to go. And so see women now, what I discover, because I'm attuned to it, what I discover is that so many women have a vision, and they just say their vision is like this, and they go here and they think, wow, I really expanded it. My thought is, what if your dream actually looked like this? What do you need to do to become the woman who can handle a dream this big? What do you need to do with your skill set, with your sense of self, with your ability to hold that position of authority, if you will, and leadership? That's a transformational process. And I think it's so imperative that we have a vision and we grow into the vision in the process of actualizing it. So that by the time it's done, it's completed, we are now the person who is more than capable to not only sustain that dream, but to possibly even increase it further.
I so appreciate the way you language that. I was just last week reading several studies that spoke to, one was in Harvard Business Review, one in Psychology Today. They were all in highly recognized publications about the fact that the majority of women within these various studies that have been ongoing state that they have to have at least 90% of the skills before they will apply themselves to a situation, to a vision, or for a position. And that leaves us very little room for growth within that. It speaks to me of the potential of immediate stagnation.
Immediate stagnation, and what ends up happening is that they may be so much more qualified for a particular position now that themselves, if it's their company or if they're working for a corporation, to help the corporation go so much further if they just opened up and took a risk. They jumped in and they got a position versus somebody else who may also be somewhat qualified, but no more qualified and without the additional soft skills or other skills this woman has, that by not standing forward, the company isn't going forward. By not moving and taking a risk of learning on the job, which is what men are more willing to do, holding themselves back, they're holding the company back, and they're holding their vision and dreams back because of this illusion that you need to know how to do a position you've never even held. We know you don't know how to do that well till you're in it. The training is a small piece of this. How you deal with it at the moment really teaches you the wisdom in the ins and the outs you'll never get until you're in the position itself.
Beautifully said. Thank you. And how does this relate to what you say? I'm going to quote you here. Real women change the world. It's time for letting the good girl die so the real woman can live.
My last book.
Yes.
Real women have the ability, because they're honest with themselves, because they're comfortable in their own skin, and they have a certainty about who they are. They are comfortable presenting it because it is not against a soul. It is probably to live their journey, to live their vision and their dream and their passion, their purpose, all of that in a way that has such clear definition for them. Instead, what I find, and I've worked with heads of hospitals, I've worked with heads of departments of hospitals, I've worked with women who are CEOs and COOs, and what ends up happening is that they are still sadly in that position and still somewhat concerned and sabotaged by a need to be liked, by a need to not be too much, and the time they put into trying to phrase something so that it's heard and not offensive or off-putting to people is such sad to see, because if the intent is never to offend, it's just to get a point across, I want to get it across, I want to get it across now. You put it out there, what they will hear is power, not aggression.
Right.
At that level, folks need to be comfortable with people of power, even women of power, because it's power, it's purpose, and it's passion. And we need to be comfortable looking at the vision we want rather than worrying about being nice, being the good girl who knows her place, whatever on earth that is supposed to be. Step in and come alive. Let that good girl die because she is sabotaging every dream and vision we have.
And she's just an illusion that someone put into your brain when you were very young anyway.
Well, you're right, because the good girl is somebody who doesn't make anybody uncomfortable. Right. And I'm going to make you uncomfortable if I challenge you to grow. I'm going to make you comfortable if I offer a suggestion for what we can do in this company that we've never done before.
Yes.
As you get uncomfortable and you sit with it, you may see what a great idea that is.
Yes.
Work through the discomfort and you go forward. So if your discomfort is something I'm avoiding, I never get to move into that vision or to pull you forward and see the validity of it.
Well, again, beautifully said. Thank you. What would you say rests at the core of women's journey in our current very complicated age to coming into self-certainty? And I know you have a whole perspective on certainty over self-esteem that I would love for you to share with our listeners.
Well, there's so much talk about we need to develop confidence. We need to develop a sense of who we are, be confident in all of that. And the fact is, that's a nice idea. The reality is that we look fantastic, we feel fantastic, we know what we're talking about, and we walk into a meeting and one person says something negative, and our confidence goes out the window. And we have to get it back again before we speak. We try to find it. That is such a tenuous state of being. God is throw confidence out the window. Walk in a certainty. I know what I'm doing. I know who I am. I'm not as good at what I'm doing as I will be next year or the year after, but I am great at what I'm doing now, and I am more than qualified for whatever it is I'm about to undertake. And I'm willing to grow in that. That's certainty. Someone says, gee, I don't like your idea on this. That's okay. You don't have to like it. I still have this idea and I'm going forward because I've got certainty. It's a great idea. I'm not I'm okay. I can do this. I know I can.
Right. I want to unpack that a little bit and pull out of that one thing you said. I'm not as good as I will be in the future, but I'm great now. If women could adopt just that one stance,
right,
of giving themselves permission to know that there is a future.
Yeah. And one they can create.
And that they get to create it and that they're always going to keep growing. If they could give themselves one permission, wouldn't it be amazing?
Giving ourselves permission is the greatest gift or the greatest handicap when we don't allow ourselves to do that. It's us giving ourselves permission to go forward. We create amazing stories in our heads that justify being stuck, that justify lost. I wish I could, but I can't. All those stories that we create, and we could find something way back there and which we didn't do great or which we failed at to justify why we should feel insecure now. Forgetting that back there to now, I've done a whole lot of growing. I've acquired a whole lot of knowledge and a whole lot of wisdom, which makes me more than ready at the moment.
And this causes me to go a little tiny bit off topic from where we were going to go today, but I would love your expertise on this. I've also been reading a lot recently on imposter syndrome and the fact that more women than men experience it, and that it is the more highly skilled and more intelligent women that experience it more severely. And several of the examples I have read about who have spoken about it openly are Meryl Streep, Michelle Obama, Dr. Maya Angelou, women of tremendous presence and brilliance. What would you say to all this?
That when they have this illusion of imposter syndrome, it's because they have created a story in their own mind about what somebody in that position would be like or should, rather than dealing with the reality that they are in that position already. They already have immense power, knowledge, and wisdom. And that's what's brought to the table, this these illusionary images that we create, perfection or of 100% achievement. Nobody has achieved 100%. To the day we go home, the day we go back into the spirit world or whatever our faith system is, we're in the process of growing. So we need to have permission to be in the process of growing and not judging ourselves because we haven't already got there. We are getting more and more of who we're meant to be for every risk we take, for every step we undertake. And that illusion of being an imposter is really because we've created an impossible image that we believe we or others should be in. Because the reality is, if you were to talk to Meryl Streep about Michelle Obama, her admiration would be massive, and vice versa. She's pretty good. I can't wait till she gets there. It's like Meryl Streep is already there. I think Michelle is already there. You know? So it's looking at the illusions we create that we can't live up to, that nobody could.
Well, thank you for that. One very wise person told me a long time ago, of course it was a woman, or questioned me. She said, Lesley, I was doing this dancing with my stories, let's say. And she said, Lesley, imagine that you were just perfect. What's left? Where will you find any zest for life?
Right.
Everything is perfect. And I've always carried that with me.
Good move. What a wise woman that was.
One of the things you spoke of was a situation with your school that put you in a position of having to come to terms with understanding that sometimes we need to be a hero to someone else, to give them, or a person, let me quote you, need to be a hero sometimes to give a person someone to believe in until they don't need you anymore.
Right. That's actually a chapter in my book, Real Women Change the World, because it's so...
We're going to all have to read that book, women. Did you catch that? Real Women Change the World. Now, we're going to let Dr. Dorothy speak, but I just wanted to put that plug in there.
Yeah, that, because it is a whole chapter. I believe in this so completely. Yeah, when I had my school, years and years ago, I had one of my students were physicians, nurses, occupational therapists, massage therapists, and so forth. I was teaching a method of energy medicine I had created. And then there were some who wanted to open up healing practices who came to study with us. But one day I was walking down the hall and a student asked if she could touch me. And I thought, how lovely, I probably got a tape showing or something showing. And I appreciate it. Help me put it together. But touched my arm and walked away and said to her friend, I touched her. And I looked at a girlfriend I was walking with who was the head of my teacher training program. And she said, we're going outside right now. And we walked outside and I said, that was the oddest damn thing in the world. What has happened? Where did I go from being Dottie or Dr. D to becoming this guru that somebody touched? That is such an odd experience. I don't know how that transition took place. And she just turned to me and she said, wait a minute. That is somebody who's entering a brand new world with a powerful woman leading her. She needs you to be a hero for her to admire so that she can begin to learn from you how to hold that level of power, how to hold that level of certainty, and reach that place where she can stand up and own her own I am. And once I heard that, okay, then what we're talking about is as I support her achieving that level of self-ownership, as I support her of recognizing the story she's telling herself so she can let them go, she will then come into that place and will no longer need me to be this guru, to be this hero. because she'll be able to stand on her own and become her own hero. And then she will be a hero to others. Knowing that made it perfectly acceptable for me because I needed to look for women who I could admire and learn from and grow with. And unfortunately, back in the day, there weren't that many women we could look up to support us. So the more of us who take these risks now, there's that many more women for other women like this younger girl today, this young woman in a sophomore in college, to have somebody they can look up to. Imagine if all of us could be that for the generation past that.
As you tell that story, it just moves through my cells that this is the understanding of what power tempered with humility looks like and sounds like and feels like.
It must be tempered with humility. We've had enough ego-driven authority figures truly weren't necessarily leaders because leadership is a way of life. It's not a position.
Right.
So we've seen many people in positions theoretically of leadership who didn't have a clue how to lead.
Oh, yes.
Right?
Yes.
So we step back and recognize I'm choosing to be a leader because I believe in my message. I believe in my approach to my message. I believe in coming from an intuitive, open-hearted place, combining that with all the wisdom and knowledge I've acquired over my journey thus far. And when we do that, we realize I've been blessed. Isn't because I'm so much more special than the rest of the planet.
Right.
I raised both of my children to believe that they were exquisite gifts to me in their uniqueness, but that nobody on this planet is more special than another. Illusion, people with wounded egos need to imagine. The fact is, we are all walking this journey together. And I happen to be a few decades or light years ahead of you in terms of my experiences. There are others that are so far ahead of me, and we're all on this journey together.
Dr. Dorothy, the thing I appreciate about everything you just said is the number of women I encounter, the number of women colleagues and friends encounter who are afraid to stand in their power because they have this false belief that it can only be approached from an egoic place. And for you to be able to speak this to women and give them that much more reasonable and accurate perspective, I thank you for that.
Oh, thank you so much for that. And that truly, the ego doesn't allow you to lead because the ego causes you to just stand there and radiate your illusionary greatness. And to be admired rather than to be turned to for leadership and guidance.
Yes. Power over versus power with.
Right. Power over is a waste, absolute waste. Because if I can develop your leadership as you work with me or for me, I now have an amazingly powerful team of effective leaders who can make me or my work that much better because I'm in a powerful team versus illusion that there's me and all the peasantry behind me that I can't learn from. What a wealth of knowledge.
Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. And I know you live by the principle anything is possible.
Absolutely. I learned that very, very young. Anything is possible in life.
Yes, that should become women's theme song. Just to remind ourselves and each other.
Right.
I could sit and speak with you for hours, and I intend to, but not during this show. But before we wrap up, can you give our listeners, the women who come to this show, for nuggets of wisdom, some actionable practices they can begin to employ to find more of themselves?
I would love that. One of the places I would start is in doing some reality checks. Every time you come up with a negative thought, I've had amazingly successful people say to me, I never succeeded at anything. And this is where you hold my heart while you kick my ass comes into play, because I love who they are and say, okay, you've never exceeded at anything. However, you happen to graduate from medical school. That's easy. Anybody can do it. You happen to become a surgeon. That's easy. Anybody can do it. And they said, wait a minute, I worked really damn hard for that. I think you did. So let's look at your other position that you've created. Let's look at your head of this department. Wait a minute, I'm damn good. I know. So when we take a break and we can do a reality check, that usually contradicts those messages. That's a small. That's tempting to make us inept, whatever that may be. I've become selfish. I am selfish. Let's take a break. At what point have you ever supported another? And I truly believe that when we have the ability to do reality checks, because we all have those stories that we can tell ourselves about our incompetence or about our limitations, let's take a step, do some reality checks, and put it in perspective. Another that I encourage highly is mindfulness. And that is a practice in which, and I literally just done 6 videos on that, 6 1-hour videos I'll be offering. When we can take a step and look at ourselves, I'm sitting in this chair. Over there on the far side of the room is a life I created. All the lovers I have had, all the jobs I have had, all the vacations I have taken, perhaps my children, all the friends I've had over the years, all the courses I've studied, all the speaking engagements I've had. That's the life I created. Over here is me. So powerful, I was capable of creating that life. And we want to say, oh, I didn't do that. It was a lucky guess. It was a lucky coincidence. It was, you created that. You chose to say yes to that lucky coincidence that showed up. You did it. When we recognize we're here and our life is there, there's a separation that gives us permission to exist in our lives.
Wow.
Because so frequently women get lost in their lives, don't know how to differentiate themselves for not only the roles they play, but the responsibilities they carry, the commitments they have made. So that's all your life that's over there. Here is you, this embodied essence, this embodied soul, or whatever your faith. This is sitting in the chair. And so where do you want to go with your life? How do you want to handle that meeting tomorrow? What do you want to get out of that meeting? Do you want to meet to support you going forward in whatever the next challenge may be? You make decisions for you. And when you walk in your own skin and the awareness of you, you then have so much more that you're walking into your life with tomorrow or today. When you forget you're here and you created that life, even if that life is the boss you brought in, the supervisor you brought in, or the organization you brought in, there's still you. Don't get lost in the life you've created. Those truly are two of the major steps. And then take risks. Always take risks. If your heart is calling you to someplace, but you don't know, jump. You'll figure it out. You will figure it out, and you will land at a place that you may not have anticipated, but you will have made the landing. And just go forward. Take all the risks in the world that you're called to.
Well, thank you for that.
You are
Those are really powerful, wonderful, actionable points. And women, I'm going to do for you what I always do for you. I'm going to put all of Dorothy's contact information, all of her links, everything with the program notes so that you can go and collect that later. Don't try to do it while you're driving or jogging. It will be there for you. And when you do, I want to ask you to like, subscribe so you can keep getting these wonderful episodes, and share.
Yeah.
I always invite you, the audience, to consider what one woman, just one, what one woman do you know who would benefit from hearing Dorothy's wisdom today? What one woman do you know whose heart would be opened or whose confidence would be strengthened by hearing what Dr. Dorothy shared today? Well, be a good sister and share this with her. It's not up to you if she watches it. It's not up to you if she implements it. It's only up to you to be a good sister for about the 30 seconds that it takes to share a video.
We are all in this together. We have got to support each other every step of the way.
Absolutely. And then comment. One of our great goals here at Women We Should Know is to initiate broader and richer and more diversified conversation. So please comment, and you'll hear back from us. So thank you for joining us today. And Dr. Dorothy, thank you so much. This has been a tremendous pleasure and honor to have you on the show.
Thank you. It's a joy. And I do look forward to our conversations long after this.
As do I. Okay, women. For those of you who've been with me a long time, you know the drill, so let me repeat it for all of those of you who are new. I know you got lots of nuggets today. Well, what we do with those nuggets is we write them each down on a separate piece of paper. And then you throw them somewhere. Your messy desk, your bar. You'll come across it in a few days, a couple weeks. And when you do, you get to look at that you wrote down and say, why did I write this? What gift did this give to me? And you get to give that gift to yourself again in a renewed state. So write down your nuggets and toss your pieces of paper around. And as you go through the rest of your day, I invite you to remember that you are stronger and wiser than you know.